but there are a few matters that we wish to address at this press conference. We're going to start with Mr. Nigel Hughes, who is going to be making a statement. He's online and he's going to make his statement. And because of his other commitments, we are going to entertain questions on that statement and any other that you may want to engage the leader of the party on. Following which, I will make a statement on behalf of Mr. Hughes on one of our policy areas, and then we will go to Mr. Onyx Duncan, the Vice Chairperson of the youth arm of the Alliance for Change. He's also online, and he will be making a statement. And we have Dr. Vincent Adams, our foremost authority on oil and gas matters. He's also online, and he will make a statement, and then we will take general questions and answers. So I will now ask Mr. Nigel Hughes, leader of the Alliance for Change, to join us and make his statement. Nigel?
Hi, Beverly. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm outside of the court. Can you just give me literally a minute?
Okay, sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, members of the press. I'm very sorry that I'm coming to you from outside of the court. And I apologize for coming to you from this forum. I wanted to start this afternoon with the U.S. report on corruption in Guyana. And if I can just lift an extract from that before I get to the substance of what I'd like to say. In relation to corruption specifically, and corruption in relation to law enforcement, the report says corruption within law enforcement, bribery, and nepotism in the public sector and political entities further complicate the fight against drug trafficking. They specifically refer to the fact that authorities drop charges or never file them and do not conduct serious investigation. We have witnessed over the last 5 to probably longer, a continuous erosion of public trust in the Guyana Police Force. In 2023, the LAPOP report specifically said that public confidence in the Guyana Police Force is 32%. That's 1 in every 3 persons. With the recent events this year and the events which occurred last year, I believe that percentage is significantly reduced. I believe the essential institution of the Guyana Police Force, which is necessary for any civilized country, is now in a state of collapse. Less than 30% of the citizenry trust the Guyana Police Force. Yesterday and today, the relatives of the deceased young lady, Young, have said that they do not trust the international forensic expert, which the Guyana Police Force and the Guyana government have proposed to conduct a post-mortem on the body of Ms. Young. They have also said very clearly that they do not trust the Guyana Police Force to conduct an investigation into the events that took place yesterday at Tushin. We are witnessing live the complete collapse of the single institution responsible for law enforcement. This has not been an event that has occurred overnight. Less than a fortnight ago, we had the tragic killing, again at the hands of the Guyana Police Force, of 2 citizens of Linden, and this is after very, very strong recommendations coming out of the 2013 report of the Commission of Inquiry. We believe that for the sake of good order and for the sake of the preservation of the law enforcement agency as the starter, the Commissioner of Police ought to go by weekend. This is not a threat. It is merely a plea. If we're going to have this essential element of law and order in this country discharge its responsibilities to protect and serve, it must enjoy the confidence of the citizenry. And it is evident, not only from last weekend, but particularly yesterday, no one, virtually no one, has any confidence in the ability of the Ghana Police Force to discharge its mandate. If we want to continue to live in a society that has some semblance of normality, it is essential for the Ghana Police Force immediately undertake, embark upon a course to reform itself, not only for the purposes of building public confidence, but also for the purposes in which it discharges its constitutional responsibility and mandate. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, as indicated earlier, we will entertain questions on that statement or any other that you may wish the leader of the opposition, leader of the Alliance for Change position on, and then we will come back to some more statements. So if there's any question on that statement by Ms. Nigel Hughes, please raise your hand and we will take that question. At this point, I don't see any person raising their hand to ask a question. Let me also say that I have with me to my left Mr. David Patterson, Chairman of the Alliance for Change, and Mrs. Kathy Hughes, former Chairman of the Alliance for Change, who will also be taking questions and helping to clarify our position. I will now read a prepared statement on one of our policy areas, and that is on domestic violence. The Alliance for Change and people of Guyana are deeply saddened and outraged by the recent tragic murders of 3 individuals, which underscore the persistent and devastating issue of domestic violence in our nation. This heinous act, which has left families and communities in mourning, is a stark reminder of the urgent need for collective action to address gender-based violence and protect the most vulnerable among us. Domestic violence is a scourge that knows no boundaries, affecting individuals across all regions, ethnicities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. It is a violation of human rights and a threat to the safety and well-being of our society. We must confront this crisis with unwavering resolve, ensuring that perpetrators are held accountable and victims receive the support and justice they deserve. In light of this, the Alliance for Change calls for 1. Strengthened law enforcement. Immediate and thorough investigations into all cases of domestic violence with swift prosecution of offenders. 2. Enhanced support services, expanded across the shelters, counseling, and legal aid for survivors, particularly in rural and underserved areas. 3. Community engagement, grassroots education campaigns to challenge harmful gender norms, promote healthy relationships, and encourage reporting of abuse. 4. Legislative action, continued review and reinforcement of laws to close gaps in protection and ensure stricter penalties for offenders. To those suffering in silence, you are not alone. Help is available. Through the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, the Guyana Police Force, and organizations such as Help and Shelter and Red Thread report abuse. We extend our deepest condolences to the families and the victims and reaffirm our commitment to building a Guyana where every citizen can live free from fear and violence. Let us stand together, government, civil society, and citizens, to break the cycle of brutality and foster a culture of respect and safety for all. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now ask Mr. Onyx Duncan from the Youth Arm of the Alliance for Change to read his statement. Onyx, please come in. Onyx? We seem to have lost Onyx. So let me go to Dr. Vincent Adams, or Authority on Oil and Gas Matters. Dr. Adams, can you make your opening remarks, please?
Sure, Beverly. Thanks, and welcome to our listeners. Um, I need to make a statement here with some earth-shattering news this week that was announced by both Attorney General Nandalal and Vice President Jagdeo. But what was even more earth-shattering, that it just seemed to have slipped under the radar. And the news was, believe it or not, that the government has decided to backpedal and agreed with the coalition and all of the other voices that were crying out for full liability coverage in the case of an oil spill. Let me repeat what I said, because I know I almost get a heart attack when I looked at the tape and the announcement from these two gentlemen. As you recall, when just to put things into context as to why this is so significant, significant meaning using Mr. Nandalal's own words, but why this is so significant, as you recall, to refresh your memory, when the coalition was in office, the coalition imposed, in the interest of the people, made certain that we imposed a condition into the law. It was law because it was into the permit, which makes it law, stating that Exxon must have full liability coverage, meaning to cover the cost, whatever that cost is. As a matter of fact, we use the word unlimited, to cover that cost, whatever that cost is, in the case of an oil spill, to compensate the people who were affected, etc. When the government, Exxon, signed off on that, agreed to it, they put it in, they put their names, their signature into that permit, meant that they agreed with it. As soon as the PPP boys got into office, the first thing that they did, they threw it aside, and that triggered, if as you may recall, it triggered that lawsuit by two patriotic citizens, Mr. Collins, and I think the other person was Godfrey White, and they won the case overwhelmingly, with the judge, besides the other, just lambasted the government. The judge, among many things, said that the government is submissive and relegated itself to a state of laxity and abdicated its responsibilities, thereby putting this nation and its people in grave potential danger of calamitous disaster. So, the litigants won the case, and then lo and behold, the PPP joined, went against its own people and its own its own permit and its own law, went against that and appealed that case, joined with Exxon. As a matter of fact, they went as far as going to the CCJ to get to be given the standing to join Exxon in appealing that case. That's how far they went. And of course, right here on this platform, in this AFC, from week to week, from month to month, from year to year, over the past several years, we have been making this an issue. The media has been making this an issue. Mr. Glenn Lal himself, in every one of his shows, it's all about, a lot of it is about full liability coverage that this government, especially Mr. Jagdeo every week, and Mr. Nandalal, saying, well, it's impossible to have a unlimited liability coverage, and all kinds of criticism against it. Well, and while hearing, what's even more egregious, while listening to the case, while waiting for the appeal to be heard, this government went and made a deal with Exxon to limit the liability to $2 billion, which is what I call bail money, because they allowed it while the case is being heard. The judge asked to show, matter of fact, the judge ruled that they should be showing the $2 billion that they have, as what I call bond money. And the government could not even show that $2 billion that they had, just in case something happens while the appeal is being heard. Well, lo and behold, of course, elections is on the horizon, and the government suddenly have gotten what appears to be an epiphany of the mind. And lo and behold, on Tuesday, I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday, Mr. Nadalal comes up with this statement that they're going to be tabling a bill in Parliament next week. After about 2 years, this bill has been pending, by the way, for this, what they call this, spill bill, which we've written about it and we've said here in this press conference that it was nothing but, an excuse to override to override Judge Kissoon's ruling against them. So they were going to put it into law so that Judge Kissoon's ruling would go away. Nevertheless, this week, Nandalal came up with this thing, and he said, by the way, and on that, this Nandalal's own words were that hold on, let me get his exact words at sorry about that. I just ran in here trying to get stuff together. But Nandalal's own words was that the liability, they're going to be putting liability coverage into the bill, and it will be unlimited. There would be no limits to it, to this liability that the responsible party has to cover. There shall be no limited, this which is what he's proposing in the bill. Well, of course, that's counter to what they weren't agreeing with in the first place. So I thought I heard wrong. So I looked at the vice president's press conference yesterday, and lo and behold, the vice president said exactly the same thing, that they're tabling this bill into Parliament, and the coverage will have no limits to it, which is exactly what we've been fighting for. We welcome this. We welcome this development. We probably should have an election every year, because a party, they're giving out stuff just because of the election. So we should have an election every year. But here's what I want to add. When this bill comes up next week, I would like for our parliamentarians to challenge them. Environmental protection is about prevention. It's not about coming up with this political gimmick about having liability coverage. What could cause a major spill is the current violation of the law, when they're also violating the law by producing oil above the safe operating limit that is written into the EIA. So they're producing that to increase the high risk of an oil spill, while at the same time you have no coverage. So while they're at it, they should put it also into the bill that they will follow the law, finally follow the law, in making sure that the operation is done within the legal parameters of the law, what the law said, which is operating within the safe limits, so as not to cause a spill in the first place. So the other thing that I would challenge them to do is to withdraw the case. There's an appeal case right now that is awaiting, the procedure, the proceedings. If they're serious about this, and it's not just a political gimmick, and then after the election they go back to their old ways, let them withdraw that case right now. That's the only thing that makes sense. If you've accepted what we've been calling for, which is full liability coverage, or unlimited liability coverage to cover all costs, if you're accepting that now, which is what you've admitted to, you must withdraw that case. In addition to that, you should apologize to the people of Guyana for bringing us all through this trauma of the possibility of an oil spill, and then we lose everything. And you should pay the cost. You should pay the cost of those two citizens, whatever it cost them when they file their lawsuit against you. But again, it's welcome news, which stunned most of the people who've paid attention. And I think this year they should not, we shouldn't just go under the radar. This year is a major, major development, And I look forward, and we all look forward to seeing what the rest of the bill is going to entail.
Thank you, Dr. Vincent Adams. Ladies and gentlemen, at the start of the press conference, I did say that this is a very sad time for our nation. And at the Alliance for Change, we are just so totally devastated at the death of 11-year-old Adrianne Young. Our hearts, our prayers are with her family, her parents, her siblings, grandparents, and other family members. And while we mourn with them, we are most upset. It is absolutely beyond understanding the activities and the reports coming out from the Ghana Police Force. The Ghana Police Force totally misled this nation, misled the family of young Adrianne, claiming that they had video evidence that showed Adrianne leaving the Doubleday Hotel. And then there were further reports that she was in a minibus heading from Stewartville heading in the direction of Perico. And then only to have the body of young Adrianne discovered, found in the pool at Doubleday Hotel. It is beyond logical thinking, it is beyond belief, it is beyond any reasonable explanation how the police force could behave in such a manner. The parents were rightly quite convinced that their daughter was still and all the time at the Doubleday Hotel. What prevented the police from making a thorough search, conducting a thorough investigation? We cannot understand. And in this context, we are saying that heads must roll. Adrianne is our daughter, an 11-year-old life. She just sat the National Grade 6 assessment. She will not be going to school on Monday. Her mother will not be pressing her uniform this weekend to get her ready for school. When her classmates sit in school on Monday, discussing what they did at NGSA and which school they're likely to go to, Adrianne will not be a part of that discussion. And so there must be justice for Adrianne. There must be justice for that family. And we have absolute zero confidence in the ability of the Ghana Police Force to conduct an independent, impartial, fair investigation. This must be done by persons outside of the Ghana Police Force. We've already seen that they're totally incapable, totally incompetent, and I dare say complicit in what happened with Adrianne. And so starting from the Commissioner of Police, the Commander of Region 3, and those who fed that totally false information, they must resign, they must go. We cannot accept these persons providing law and order for our country, for our children, for our young people. They're our future. And if the law enforcement agency is failing them, then they're failing this nation, and they have to go. Ladies and gentlemen, I will pause here, and we will take your questions. Yes, if you will just raise your hand to indicate if you have a question for our team. Remember, I have with me Mr. David Patterson, and I also have Ms. Kathy Hughes of the Alliance, both executive members of the Alliance for Change, and of course, Dr. Vince Adams is online to take any questions you may have related to oil and gas or any other matter.
Hi, Bev. Oh, sorry. Beverly?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, while we were waiting, what I was looking for, I wanted to make sure that people understand that it's not slip of the tongue from coming from the Nandalal nor the vice president. Here are the exact quotes. It says the bill enshrines liability for those who may be responsible for any form of oil spilling or any negligent oil operations that lead to damages of any kind. But here's the other part. Significantly, it doesn't limit liabilities. Then the vice president came the next day and says, at minute 49, 20 seconds of the video, there is no cap on the liability. So there's no question whatsoever what they're saying, hopefully they mean it and it's gonna come to pass, is that they're vindicated, all of us, the AFC, and even MP Dave Patterson had tabled a motion in Parliament calling for exactly the same thing. So I hope that this is serious and not a political stunt. That they're gonna just when after the election, they're just gonna say, hey, you know what, we just ignore it like they have done in the past. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and so that people can go look it up.
Questions?
Yeah,
Please go ahead.
hand
Who is
up.
that?
Can I, Davina Bagot with Kaiser News? Can I go ahead? I have my hand up. Hello?
Hearing you, Davina. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Um, Forgive me, I'm at this protest, so if you hear noises in the background or anything, it's just that I'm trying to juggle two assignments at once. I have three questions for any member of the panel. I'll just read them very quickly. Firstly, Attorney at Law Chris Ram has initiated legal natural resources and the Commissioner of Information for key
You're
oil and
break.
gas information.
You're breaking
Hello?
up a bit, Davino.
Oh my goodness. Would you prefer that I send my
I'm hearing
questions to
you
the chat?
absolutely. I'm at hearing you absolutely clearly now. I don't know what happened there just now.
Okay,
Just
let me
repeat
go.
it. Uh-huh.
Okay. I was saying that Attorney at Law Christopher Ram has initiated legal action now against the Minister of Natural Resources as well as the Commissioner of Information for failing to provide key oil and gas information that he requested several years ago. Um, I want to know what what does this say about the management of the oil sector in Guyana? That's the first one. And secondly, oil prices are expected to decline further this year as a result of the decline in demand, and this is likely to continue over the next few years. What is the AFC's position on government's refusal to ring fence the block projects? And does the party believe the seventh project should be approved without this provision? Finally, could the AFC also share its thoughts on the information shared with MP Patterson on the legal fees paid to date for the gas energy project? Thank you.
Thank you, Davina. Mr. Patterson will answer those questions.
Well, I'll answer two, and I think the third one, the second one, I think Vince is a better place to respond to that. As you know, for Christopher Ram, I think the media houses, all the independent media houses, Transparency International, and other civic groups protested the Commissioner of Information on his lack of action. The Alliance for Change was part of that protest action in support of it. So we fully endorse Mr. Ram's case. I can tell you, and it is widely publicized, that I would have publicly asked, and in Parliament, the Prime Minister and the government to provide details on the gas to shore project. Despite giving his commitment three times in Parliament, the Prime Minister has refused to hand over the documents. On the very first occasion, he said that he claimed that when the documents, all the contracts are signed, he will release it publicly. They were signed, the project is on, but he has refused. The Vice President has since made an announcement that he will not release any information on the gas to shore project until the project is finished, and it's totally unacceptable. Obviously, everyone knows that that is heading towards a failed project, so they are trying to use their office to not enlighten the citizens. So for Mr. Ram, I do hope that the case can be heard speedily, and we 100% support his court action. And on the case of the legal fees, to a question which I asked the Prime Minister, first and foremost, we must say that we're pleased that he actually did respond. It shows you the complete lack of preparation in the project. These legal fees are a direct result of a lack of studies, lack of proprietary work before the contract was signed. If the country can recall, in 2020 when the PP came in, the Minister of Natural Resources and the Vice President came to Parliament, monies were allocated, and they said the monies will go into geotechnical studies and other studies for the gas to shore project. None were done. So obviously when the contractor took over the project, what they found on site was inadequate, and that's why the government is lost. And I've said it before, they've lost the case. My information, and I think the country's information, they've lost the case. Additionally, Davina, you must remember that Exxon, when they did their EIA briefings, they came to the general public and they set out that the EIA was for 4 parts of the project: the onshore pipeline, the offshore pipeline, the material offloading facility, as well as the natural gas plant. Those were the 3 items in which Exxon were supposed to have done it. Obviously, Exxon had not a clue how corrupt the PPP are, so they yanked the gas ashore, the natural gas component of the project away from Exxon, gave it to their friends and family, under the guise of public procurement. And then, but they still asked Exxon to do the proprietary work. Remember, Exxon was doing the proprietary work just simply for a natural gas plant, which is not a very large area. And Exxon, I think, innocently agreed to continue doing the site work, which they originally budgeted for, I assume, for the natural gas, extending it to the power plant. So that is why Exxon is part and parcel of this. I don't think they'll make that mistake anymore again. However, if the government had done what they said they would have done their studies, prepared this project, it would not have ended up where it is. And we would not have been paying this almost 1.6. And that's only the first part, because they're going back once again to arbitration. So which they'll lose again. There's another case. And all these costs add up to a failed project. Thank you. And I'd ask Vince to take the second question on the oil development.
The new project,
Yeah.
Dr. Adams?
Well, let me add to Dave what Mr. Ram's lawsuit is absolutely justifiable and necessary. There is no secret. Davina and Davina knows, everybody knows that it's not only Mr. Ram. There are all kinds of letters in the newspapers, and I know of other people who've been asking for information, even asking for information from the EPA or other government officials. They would even ignore your request, not even give you the common courtesy of responding to you. Reserves, for example. Why can't they tell us what the reserves are? We have not heard for 3 years. For 3 years before they got to the 11 billion, we were getting for every discovery, we were getting the data on what the reserve is for 3 years now, it is absolutely nonsense when they say that they're doing calculations. Those calculations take days, not years. The second thing is, when we've been asking for the field development plans to be published, the vice president even had the nerve and the gall to get in one of his weekly things, whatever you call it, to lie, barefacedly lie, and saying that they have published all of those FDPs since they got into office. A blatant lie. So we all support Mr. Ram, and hopefully he would be successful. In terms of I think you asked about the oil price and the and ring fencing, right? Well, regardless about oil price, because oil prices will go up and down. Trust me, I remember when I was in the business in the 60s and the 70s. Well, in the 70s, I remember every time you attempt to project oil prices, anything can happen. You can get something happening in the Middle East, the next thing you know, oil prices go up. But regardless of the oil prices, ring fencing should be a requirement on the table to start the discussion with Exxon. And I know for sure the past administration, this was one of Mr. Granger's highest priority. I know Dr. Bino was working this with Exxon, but everything got abandoned as per normal by this current government when they got into office. And this was the same government, by the way, who was shouting from the rooftops that we got such a bad deal. We sold our patrimony, and ring fencing. We must have ring fencing when they get into office. We negotiate the contract. Ring fencing must be a must. And getting back to you as to whether we should approve the 7 project or not, absolutely. I would say if you do not come to the table, it's not only ring fencing. There are issues in this contract that needs to be negotiated. I would say if you do not come to the table to do this, we will not grant you your permit. We did it when I was at EPA. That's where the full liability coverage came from with the parent company guarantee. What we told them was, thou will not produce one single barrel of oil unless we get that parent company guarantee. Guess what? Within days, they came and they signed that parent company guarantee. Of course, we know the rest of the story, what happened with the lawsuit and everything else. So absolutely, we should be withholding the permit if we do not get a fair deal as far as the people are concerned.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. Ladies and gentlemen, any other question? Mr. Harris? Go ahead, Adam, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now clearly, sir.
Oh, good, beautiful. I don't know if Mr. Hughes is still there.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk on this report, on the corruption report. And it made some scathing remarks about the police. However, the Attorney General attempted to say that you must provide the evidence, which is a common thing we hear. What is the AFC going to do to establish that there is rampant corruption in the police force, drugs disappearing from police station and all of that? I can't hear you.
Mr. Hughes is going to answer.
Adam,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, good.
I'm outside of the court, so forgive me if you're not hearing me clearly.
All right,
You're asking us to establish what you've already said is in the public domain. For example, the disappearance of narcotics from the custody of the police. The police themselves have charged one of their own or 2 of their own. So it is clear from their own actions and the implementation of prosecutorial proceedings that they themselves acknowledge that there has been corruption. Today, they charge one of their own with killing the young man at Linden. So there are examples where they have acknowledged that there are problems in the force. The problem comes in how they prosecute those cases. They don't have a lot of confidence in their ability to do that. But I hope that addresses your issue.
Quick follow-up.
Adam, can I
Police-
also add that The United States government has published a report on police corruption on drugs. Why doesn't Mr. Nandalal ask the United States? Well, I think he's scared to ask them to produce the evidence of why they made the claim from the United States. But they keep trying to put a wool over our eyes by asking us to prove it. But independently, the United States has said that they are a corrupt society, listed several persons, the police, government officials, etc. This year, it's not an old report. The report came out in March this year. You know what I mean? So when you ask, when the Attorney General or the PPP keeps throwing the onus back on the opposition party or civil society, they should now be asking the United States government to provide the proof of what's contained in their security report. But I can bet you my bottom dollar, because they know that should they ask, it will be provided.
And if I may quickly add, Mr. Harris, have you noticed that when there is a flattering report, a report that is flattering to the PPP government, that they hail it, it is all well and good, you know, best report ever. But when the reports are not flattering, then we must throw it out. It's no good, it's fraudulent, it's, you know, biased. So the PPP cannot have it both ways. Reports are produced based on evidence accumulated over a period of time, and they cannot pick and choose only the ones that are flattering to the whatever it is that they want to see in a report. Any?
Say something.
Oh, sure, Kathy.
Adam, I just wanted to add that unfortunately in Guyana, we do have an Attorney General that does not operate with the same legal principles that you find in many other countries. And what I mean by that is that in most jurisdictions, the initial response to such a report, especially when it comes from an agency with as much respect as the U.S. Department of State agency has internationally, you should be saying that you are going to investigate the contents of this report, that you want to fix this problem if it does exist. You don't start to bad mouth and bad talk the messenger. And I just want to remind the public that we see this every single day. The problem is always with the person or agencies or organizations that step forward to say, we have a problem in this area. What are you going to do? You are the government. You are supposed to fix it. But we don't get an acknowledgement. We get the vitriol, we get the criticisms, we get the nastiness. And so that is why we hope there is going to be a day soon when we will approach these matters in a different way. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Mrs. Hughes. Adam, any other question?
Yeah, one quick one, and this is Mr. Patterson. David, you said that Jagdo has announced that he will not release any further information on the gas to energy project. But isn't that a reversal of a promise they had made when they said the nation would be kept abreast of the progress on this project?
Absolutely, absolutely, Adam. You can recall when we were in office, they were forefront in demanding that the contract with Exxon was released, which it was, and several other natural resources contracts, which we didn't sign, which they signed, we also released them. But that is Jagdio, a pure and out barefaced liar. Him and his party, they've set out, and they would like to set out that they're transparent and accountable and those things like that. But if you have nothing to hide, as we did not have when we were in office, why are you not releasing the documents? So, you know, I mean, the more they try to, and then of course, what his claim is the reason they're not producing the document is that so many persons are against the project, and he doesn't want the release of the documents to become a distraction. Obviously, it can only become a distraction when everybody sees the corrupt and mismanagement contained in the documents and how poorly designed and how poor they negotiated this contract and the debt burden on the country. So that's what they do. Say one thing with one side of the mouth and then say it in the other, and then obviously try to somehow politicize something that they promised that they would do. The PPP and Irfan Ali and I said, oh, you mean we don't call the president out, we use Jagdio's name, but he's the president. He was in the forefront of speaking about one Guyana, inclusivity, transparency, and those things like that. And he is ultimately responsible for the utterances of Mr. Jagdeo and for his party's neglecting and backtracking on commitments that they made to this country. Not Mr. Jagdeo, because the president, the buck stops at him, so he cannot deflect and say that the position Jagdeo has taken is not his position. If it's not his position, then we demand that we overrule Jagdeo, which we know he can't, but we demand he overrules Jagdeo and instruct him and the Minister of Natural Resources and the Prime Minister to make all the contracts and information on this project, which they are touting to be the biggest transformation project in the country, available to the public for public scrutiny.
David, would you remind us of the money spent on the project so far?
Oh, yes, and I want to. I mean, Kathy's asked me, and which is right, so the persons could know. We've spent in excess of 2.5 billion US dollars on this project. This project was supposed to be completed a year ago, and it's nowhere near completion. The latest fees that legal fees adds to that project. The arbitration when the award is finally made will add to the project. Adam, I want to say this. In trying to be open, they've awarded the contract to an American firm, and we've taken a loan from the U.S. Exim Bank. However, that was one of their biggest mistakes in the sense of trying to give the appearance that they're an open and transparent government. Normally, these projects would have been awarded to, say, a Chinese contractor who, even though they had claims, what the contractor would probably do, what they would have done is have a backroom deal, set out, don't claim anything here. CGIA is a prime example. Don't claim anything here, we give you another road or those things like that. But the American contractors, obviously following the rules of the Exim Bank, claim whatever is claimed, and they're not beholden or they're not worried that they will be blacklisted. And that is why you see several other companies don't carry the government to court, because once you carry them to court, you can't bid on any project. So and I've said this, and I keep saying this, the cost for the power ships that we are renting has to be added on to the cost of this project, and right now that's running about 300 million US dollars a year. Because if the project was done correctly, it would have been finished last year, as they claim. So we have no need for having a power ship in 2025. So all the costs and the $18 billion extra that GPL has to be subsidized this year to provide a absolutely abysmal service, by the way. I mean, we're subsidizing GPL $18 billion for 2025, $16 billion for 2024, and we still get blockouts every single day. They've run out of excuses. They started off by blaming, of course, erroneously the previous administration. That didn't hold sway. They started then blaming birds. That didn't hold sway. They started blaming rats biting wires. That didn't hold sway. They started blaming batteries. Imagine a battery. A simple battery puts the entire country in blackout. They started blaming contractors. They blamed a truck driver for hitting a pole. One single concrete pole on the embankment in this entire country has been shut down. And all this mismanagement is directly due to their handling of the sector. Thank you.
David, let me add quickly in terms of this whole behavior of hiding information, and even why even more so that Mr. Ram's case action is justifiable. Jagdo even goes so far as to insult the Guyanese people with one of his pretexts that he's been using. Well, why should I release this information when the people wouldn't understand it anyway? Judging people from his standard. So he stoops that low to insult the Guyanese people that there's no need for him to release this information because we wouldn't understand it. So I just want to get that in there.
No other questions at this time. If there's anyone out there with a question, just jump in. Seems like there are no other questions. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, at this time I want to especially thank you for the work you've been doing over the past 2 days, especially keeping the nation informed on what was happening with Adrianne Young, the social media activists who were going live all day from the Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, Thursday, keeping this nation informed. We thank you. Through your posts and through your articles, you allow this nation to be aware of the truth. And so we at the Alliance for Change thank you. Again, our hearts and our prayers with the parents and family of Adrianne Young, and the Alliance for Change will continue to support her family and to support this nation as we call for justice. Thank you.